Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers and welcome to another running shoe versus. In this video we are going to be looking at the New Balance 1080 V13 and the On Cloudsurfer 7. Let's dive in. The New Balance Freshfoam 1080 V13 costs £160 or $164.99, weighs in at 262 grams or 9.2 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The On Cloudsurfer 7 costs £150 or $159.99, weighs in at 236 grams or 8.3 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 10mm. The 1080 V13 has modified the shoe with a new, softer Freshfoam midsole to improve the level of cushioning and comfort, as well as redesigned the upper with a new breathable mesh that offers more structure than earlier versions. The shoe features plenty of padding around the ankle collar and tongue for a healthy dose of stepping comfort, and it features an endurance rubber outsole for grip and to improve durability. The 7th iteration of the On Cloudsurfer is almost a complete overhaul of its predecessors. The daily training shoe's biggest change is the addition of the brand's new CloudTec Phase midsole foam technology, a softer, bouncier design that aims to improve heel-to-toe transition and offer a significantly improved level of comfort. Unlike most of On's shoes, the Cloudsurfer no longer has a speedboard running across the length of the shoe, meaning the ride is less rigid to earlier models. There's a soft mesh upper that features plenty of padding around the heel collar and tongue, a modest covering of outsole rubber across the front and rear of the shoe, and an interesting lacing system designed to offer a lockdown fit. So the fit for me in these two shoes, I'm size 8, these are both size 8s in the UK. I have found both of them to be very comfortable. There's plenty of padding in them, they feel like there's plenty of space in them as well. They feel very similar to me overall. I don't think there's any major differences in them. The upper's quite similar as well. There's quite a lot of reinforcement and padding on it. And there's plenty of wiggle room in the forefoot in both of these shoes for me. So I would stick to my size in my UK size 8 for both of these shoes.
So when it comes to fit, I'd recommend going true to size in both of these shoes. The main difference, I think, is that the New Balance 1080 hugs the foot much more closely. Around the toe box is a bit narrower, the tops, the uppers you can feel across the top of the toes a bit more. The On Cloudsurfer 7 has much more wiggle room, it's much more airy and spacious. Can even feel a little bit loose by comparison. So I quite like that though. I like to have room for my toes to splay and feel like they've got room to maneuver. But the New Balance 1080 V13 definitely hold your foot more snugly, it's more compact, it's a more kind of dialed in fit, but I would recommend going true to size in both.
So I have my normal UK size in both of these shoes, which is a UK 9, and with both of these shoes that translates to a US 9.5, so it's at the smaller end of the UK 9s because lots of brands convert to a US 10. I'd say both of them have fit me pretty well. The Cloudsurfer I think is a little bit shorter, and there is a potential to go half a size up to get a little bit more room in the toe box, especially if you're looking at a long run shoe. But overall I was pretty happy with both shoes. Good comfortable hold around the midfoot, really nice uppers on both of them actually, really well padded, really welcoming when you put your foot in them, and they feel very comfortable, breathable, everything like that. So overall I'd say stick to your normal size with the 1080 V13, but maybe look at going half size up in the Cloudsurfer, or at least try it on to see if it is a bit too cramped in the toe box for you.
So I've just done my usual side-by-side mile. I've got the 1080 on the left foot, I've got the Cloudsurfer 7 on the right foot. Main difference here I think is just in the kind of spring of that Freshfoam X, the bigger volume of Freshfoam X you've got underfoot compared to the Cloudsurfer 7, which has got that Helium foam, which is a little bit more it's a little bit more direct, a little bit firmer. There's not as much bounce. You can feel a bit more of the ground coming up. You don't get quite as much spring off the foam itself. I think the footbed and that kind of midsole on the New Balance is just a bit more protecting. There's a little bit more energy coming back in terms of sort of bounce. But then if you flip over, if you want a more direct ride, I think that gives you a little bit more response when you're rolling through kind of forefoot and toe off, then I think you're getting that a little bit more from the Cloudsurfer 7. It's a bit kind of more compact as a shoe. If you need a bit more of a wide base, a wider platform to run off, that's what the New Balance offer. The Cloudsurfer 7 offer a slightly kind of narrower, more dialed in kind of platform. So it's a bit more precise, I find, which I quite like. I quite like the firmness and the directness as well. Particularly if I was going to go for faster miles, I think that's the shoe I would choose. Maybe if I was going to go longer, slower, I think the New Balance 1080 would offer a lot more protection for those longer, slower miles where you want something that's maybe going to eat up a little bit more of the road and put something more between you and maybe give you a little bit more bounce back. But when I'm up on my 4 feet running with good form, it's not a huge amount to choose. I think I prefer the overall kind of feel of the Cloudsurfer on the foot. They're a little bit lighter, they're a bit more compact, it's a bit less shoe going on. Yeah, and you've got a little bit more airiness, a little bit more room, like I said in the section on fit. And so I think for me, the Cloudsurfer 7 wins it for when I want to go up the gears. I think the New Balance is probably the shoe that I would choose for when I want to go down the gears. So a couple of other things I wanted to say. I think because you've got that wider platform to run off, I think the New Balance offer marginally more stability than the Cloudsurfer 7. Also, the Cloudsurfer 7 don't feel quite as rockered as the New Balance 1080. I think you feel a little bit more roll through from the rocker on the 1080, whereas the Cloudsurfer 7 feel a little bit more flat to run in until you get up on your front foot, really. I don't think you get, if you're landing sort of further back on the shoe, you don't get as much kind of natural roll through into toe off. And yeah, but so we'll do the verdict back in the office because I'm fighting the Heathrow flight path here in queue.
So I've enjoyed using both of these shoes this year, and both of them are softer than we've come to expect either from the 1080 line or from On in general. The Cloudsurfer was a really big hit with me and many people this year as an On shoe that really changed the feel of On shoes with this very soft and staggered CloudTec Phase midsole that creates a very smooth rocking ride to it that is really soft in a really lightweight shoe that also looks quite good, which is a nice bonus. Like, I loved cruising around in this shoe at easy paces, but it is so light and has that well-designed rocker that you can pick up the pace in it pretty comfortably, making it a nice versatile daily trainer, just a really good shoe all round. Concerns with it are probably restricted to things like how durable this CloudTec Phase midsole is going to be. Haven't any problems yet, but it doesn't seem like it's necessarily going to be the most long-lasting design, and it is a bit squeaky, this shoe, but I don't really mind that, but a lot of people do. And then the New Balance 1080 V13 is certainly a lot softer than what we've seen from the line in the past. So in the past, the 1080 was an okay shoe, not one that really stood out to me, but it was a solid, versatile, cushioned shoe with a firmish ride that worked well for a range of runs. It was quite heavy, but it was a good shoe that could tackle a lot of different things. I'd say the 1080 V13 is now much more a cushioned, easy day shoe with a really soft ride, almost mushy at times, I'd say the ride is. And it now makes it a much better shoe, I think, for recovery runs and easy runs. It's really comfortable. Certainly, people just looking for a comfort-focused shoe will find it with a 1080 V13. I think it has lost a little bit of versatility, though. I didn't really enjoy picking up the pace in the shoe. The foam just feels a bit mushy, like really just designed to cushion the impact of running rather than give you a load of bounce back or even rock through or anything like that. So while I enjoyed the 1080 for kind of short, easy runs, general daily plods, didn't really like it so much for going long or trying to do anything even vaguely fast or steady paced in, just because I just found it a bit too soft for my taste. I think a lot of people will disagree, they'll just love it for that softness, but at the same time I think you get a really soft ride with the Cloudsurfer and then just that little bit more back if you are running long or trying to pick up the pace at all. It just has a little bit more of an edge to it because it's slightly lighter than New Balance, but also just rocks through a little bit more effectively rather than just getting a very mushy feeling underfoot where you almost get lost in the foam. Yeah, overall I'd say the characteristics of them both make them best suited to those easy runs when you're enjoying the soft ride.
It's been an interesting year for cushioned shoes, and both of these are quite surprising shoes from the point of view of the fact that the previous versions of these have been very, very different. I'll start with the New Balance 1080 V13. So I've never been a big fan of the New Balance 1080 range. I've always found it to be a fairly general running shoe. There's plenty of midsole foam in it, but not a midsole foam that really did anything that impressive. Wasn't particularly soft, wasn't particularly responsive. It just did the job. It was quite durable, but whenever I would go running in a 1080 V11 or V12, I just found like I wasn't really getting anything out of that shoe. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't feel like I could run fast in it. Didn't feel particularly versatile. It was just a fine, solid running shoe. But yeah, I never really enjoyed those shoes. So when the 1080 V13 came out, I was sort of expecting the same thing, and I wasn't that excited about getting it. But the 1080 V13 is completely different than the 1080 V11 and 12. This new midsole foam is so much softer than what you get in those previous versions, and it just rides like a completely different type of shoe. It's so soft and comfortable and really just nestles your feet into the run, but it's also quite a nice cruiser as well. I've been using this, I've probably done about 100k in this now. I'm just using this all the time at the moment, and I'm really enjoying every run in it. It just feels really nice for those easy runs, which for me would be about 4-minute 50 kilometers. It just feels great at that pace. When you pick up the pace, it's too soft for that. It's not a particularly versatile shoe when you're going to do something like that, but it still just feels great for those sort of daily runs where you just want to go out and tick off a lot of miles and just have your legs as fresh and comfortable as possible. And for that, I absolutely love it. If you're a fan of the channel, you might know that I'm largely obsessed with the New Balance More V3 and More V4. This shoe has come in and really, I'm picking this up instead of the More V4 at the moment, just because I'm enjoying it, and it just feels a little bit nimbler than the More V4. The More V4 is a big shoe, and I think this is going to be a tricky one if you're looking to get a cushion shoe from New Balance, because previously I would have said get the More V4, but now I think this is probably the better option. I would say that More V4 is probably a little bit better at longer runs. It's not as soft, and it has a bit more of a rocking action, so you can do quite long runs in it, and it works quite well. But the New Balance 1080 V13 is fantastically comfortable, just a great shoe, really loving it. The Cloudsurfer 7, they massively updated this shoe, so they've added in a new midsole called CloudTec Phase, and that's something we've been waiting for from On for a long time, because On's been using the same helium foam in all of its shoes for a few years now, and it's quite a firm foam. I've never really enjoyed that foam. It works okay in something like the Cloud Monster because there's a lot of it in there, but when you take it down to more of the daily shoes, it just becomes a little bit firm, and it means they're not very enjoyable. And when you like soft cushion shoes like me, there's not many On shoes that do soft cushioning. Whereas the new one, the Cloudsurfer 7, is really soft. It's a completely different shoe again than what On has produced in the past. And as a result, I really, really like it. It's just so smooth and nice to go out with for a daily run. It probably is a little bit soft, so as a result, it's not that versatile. But it is great for those daily easy runs where you're just ticking off the miles, going out for an enjoyable 5 to 10k. Absolutely fantastic for that. Really, really enjoyed it. And again, I would use this for my easy run, so 4 minute, 50 kilometers. So both of these shoes, I say they do the same thing. They're really, really similar. They tick off the same boxes. Seems to be a lot of shoes coming out like this now, where it's really focused on those comfortable, easy miles, but veering more towards that cushioned world as opposed to a slightly firmer, balanced world. And I love it because I love cushion shoes. So this is a tough one because I really like both of these shoes. Other things I would say about them is the upper is very comfortable in both. I had no issues at all. The outsole is better on the 1080 V13. It's just got a little bit more to it, protecting that midsole, bit grippier. Outsole on the Cloudsurfer 7 is a little bit less, and there's not as much coverage on it. And yeah, it's just not as much for me as the 1080 V13. Only other thing I would say about them is that the Cloudsurfer 7 squeaks quite a lot. I didn't realise this for until about 2 or 3 runs in it, and I thought it was like my keys or something squeaking in my pocket. This squeaks so much. I didn't know what it was for the first couple of times I went running, but yeah, my girlfriend's got a pair as well, and hers squeak a lot as well. So if you don't like squeaky running shoes, this is probably not for you. Okay, so my verdict on these two shoes is a really tricky one because I like both of these shoes, and I think they are good options if you're like me and you like a lot of cushioning for your daily runs, and you just enjoy softness. But what I would say about them is, if it came down to it, I'm going to go 1080 V13. I just think there's a little bit more to this shoe. I like the upper. I think it's a little bit more reinforced, a little bit more comfortable, and I like the softness in the midsole foam. I think it's just got a little bit more density to it, whereas the CloudTec Phase in Cloudsurfer 7 feels a little bit too soft for me. It's probably because of these cloud units in it, and it really sort of feels like it's squishing into the ground. So I think for me it just feels like you just retain a bit more energy in the 1080 V13, and there's a little bit more density in it, whereas the Cloudsurfer 7 just feels like it deadens the run a little bit more for me. Not a lot, but that's why I'm going to go for the New Balance 1080 V13. I just think it's a more solid shoe, and just feels like you're getting a bit more control over the run.
So verdict here, I think these are both really solid shoes. I say personally I prefer the ride of the Cloudsurfer. I enjoy it more as a slightly lighter shoe, a shoe that I think feels better over long distances and then has a little bit more about it if you're using it for a variety of daily training. Same time, the New Balance is still a very good shoe, and if you're building a rotation and want an easy day shoe in there, it's very comfortable, very soft. I think it'll probably be a little bit more long lasting than the Cloudsurfer. It's got a bit more of an effective outsole as well that will help with durability. It's just I found it slightly too soft for my taste. However, if you do really, really love soft shoes and just want a very soft ride and the most protection you can get on the run, I think the 1080 provides that even more so than the Cloudsurfer, even though that is a strength of the Cloudsurfer as well. You get even more cushioning here with the 1080, so that might make it the standard option of the two for most people, but I do prefer the On Cloudsurfer all round, and I like the look of it, so it's a good walking around shoe as well. Great holiday running shoe because you can wear it all the time.
So I've taken refuge from the planes in the car for my verdict, and I actually like both of these shoes. They're both good daily trainers. The On Cloudsurfer 7 is one of my favourite shoes of the year. It's a really easy shoe to put on for a really good range of workouts, and I think it's one of On's best shoes for a long time, if not up there with kind of ever. The New Balance 1080 V13 has shifted away from having a bit more ground connection. It's much closer now to the bigger, bouncier shoes like the Asics Gel Nimbus 25, with a deep stack, a wide, soft platform, and a bit more sink and spring to the ride. It's also heavier, a bit more bulky than the Surfer 7, but it's great for soaking up longer miles in comfort, and that's how I'd split these shoes. The firmer, more responsive Cloudsurfer 7, I think, is better for faster efforts, though it can also soak up slow miles and recovery runs as well. Done plenty of those, ran an Ultra in it. The New Balance 1080 V13 is softer, springier, and it makes your foot feel all round, a bit more swaddled, a bit more cocooned, but the bulk and weight, for me, make it a bit better for slow and easy. It's just not quite as good when you're moving faster. It's not overly heavy and sluggish, but it lacks some of the faster pace potential I think you'll get from more versatile daily trainers, and that includes the On Cloudsurfer 7. So if I'm going to choose one of these shoes to add to my rotation, or as an only shoe that I could buy, well, because it's a smidge cheaper, it's better at those faster efforts, and I think can cope slower. The On Cloudsurfer wins this for me. I like shoes a little more compact and direct, so that is the one I'd go for.
That's it from us on this version. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell, and check the channel out for all the other videos we've got. If you go to the caption below, you can also find a link to our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. So take a listen to that, and if you like it, give us a rating or leave us a comment. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.